Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, and we're going to talk about why it's so important for Dungeons and Dragons that we reach a point where we are dealing specifically with deep rules, mechanical complexity on social interaction pillar. So we already have this on the combat pillar. We have deep rules complexity on the combat pillar, and we've just started having deep rules complexity on social interaction, and that gate, right? Gary Gygax opened the gate for rules complexity on combat in 1974. Amanda Heyman opened the gate for rules complexity for Dungeons and Dragons, specifically with Strixhaven in 2021. Yes, that's right, in 2021. So, and I'm the biggest proponent on the internet saying that we need to go way deep on this. We need to go super deep on mechanical complexity for social interaction, and everybody's like, no, Scott, we don't need that. It's fine with what we have. And I'm like, you're so wrong. And so what are the stakes? So one of the things is social interaction has become the most complex thing that Americans are dealing with today by far. There's so many conversations we get into that are fraught, and the reality is, if you say the wrong thing, we live in a new world. Saying the wrong thing can now literally be a crime, and not just a regular crime, like a super different level of special crime that will put you into a special jail. It's speech is more dangerous than we have ever seen before, ever. Thank you. So we have this issue where we're dealing with with rules complexity here, right? And we want to go higher on the social interaction, and the thing is, why? So that we can learn about ourselves and about others at the level of humanity, right? And I'm convinced that there's deep wisdom. There's things that we're going to find that we never expected. They're going to be revealed. Exposed is a weird word. That are going to be revealed by Dungeons and Dragons, about ourselves, about our societies, about our communities, about our friendships, about our associations, about our relationships, right? And I'm convinced that Dungeons and Dragons is the perfect tool to do this. Psychology sucks. It's like, oh, hey, do you have $200 an hour to talk to this person and they don't give you any answers? You ask them a bunch of questions and they respond to your questions with questions. Do you think you're a broken person? Well, great, right? As long as you're rich and you're comfortable with your questions being answered with questions, and you perceive yourself as broken, psychology has something for you. But what if you're whole, and what if you're a whole person? You're not you don't think you're broken. You don't have $200 an hour to have people answer your questions with your questions. What if you're a whole person and you're like, hey, I'm whole, I'm not broken, but I ain't in my final form, right? And I want to transform myself and I want to improve myself, right? But I'm not super wealthy. Guess what? Dungeons & Dragons got you covered, right? And so I'm convinced that once we, go into this deeper realm of massive rules complexity, just like we have for combat, what did we learn from combat? We learned a few things. There were a lot of people. We learned categorization. We learned a lot about our own history. But when we go into this new area of rules complexity, I feel like we as humans are really going to start to learn about ourselves in ways that nothing else on our planet can really deliver. This is going to be really important and really special and really beneficial, right? So, all right. So why do I think this? Well, there's a new reason I'm thinking it. It's why we're talking today. Roadhouse Consent. Roadhouse? Wait. Are you talking about that Patrick Swayze movie from 1989? Yes, I am, right? So I recently began rewatching Roadhouse, right? It's one of my favorite films. I love the film. It's a classic, right? And so it's about James Dalton, who's a bouncer, and his friend, who's the second best bouncer in the world, and his friend Wade Garrett, who is the best bouncer in the world, right? And so James Dalton is played by Patrick Swayze, and Wade Garrett, this movie's like, hey, want to see the coolest dude in the world? Now here's a cooler dude, right? And that's Wade Garrett, played by Sam Elliott. Good grief! How can you pack so much cool in one movie, right? So why did I turn on Roadhouse, right? Well, I'll tell you why I turned on Roadhouse, because I wanted to see Wade Garrett and James Dalton beat the living marshmallows out of a whole bunch of people. Right? Like, so that, so like, I came for the 80s flavor, but I'll stay for the violence. Like, and so, so I turned on Roadhouse. What shocked me is what Roadhouse taught me. What did Roadhouse teach me? Consent. What? Wait, are you talking about like when two people are intimate, about how to get consent with two people being intimate? Yes. In 1989, right, Roadhouse said, hey, do you want to know something about human interaction? Do you want to know how to deal with consent? We're going to teach it to you. Right now in 1989, exactly 27 years before Me Too, right? And I was like, whoa, wait, what? Like, Roadhouse contains wisdom about consent between two hetero people? Yes, it does. Like, now I'm not sure if this would work with LGBTQ. I don't want to speak to their space because I'm not LGBTQ, but I think this is very sound for hetero people. Now, if you're a hetero person or if you're an LGBTQ and you think that Roadhouse consent is not correct, I would love to hear it, right? I'm giving my opinion here. Let me know in the comments below if this isn't perfectly executed consent, right? So what does Roadhouse say about consent? It says, well, if you're a hetero man, here's how you kiss a woman with 100% consent, right? Without turning the situation from an oasis to a Sahara. Okay? Here we go. All right. So how does James Dalton get the lady kiss the lady he would like to kiss, right? So first of all, he does epic things, right? Like, he's like, I'm the best at what I do, and I don't get dropped, right? So one, be good at something, right? Also, he labors and he earns money for laboring. So he is a hard worker. So be a hard worker, be very good at what you do, right? And then lean somewhere. And so make yourself visible, right? So immediately, right? 3 different women present themselves to James Dalton, and he does not ask a single one of them out ever, right? So first of all, don't ask women out. Just lean somewhere visibly, right? And then if they like what they see, the fact that you're an earner and you're good at what you do, they will come to you, right? So one, only deal with the women who come to you, right? Like, don't pursue women, right? Like, so that's consent rule number 1, right? Like, and by the way, I'm aware that maybe some of this relies on looking like Patrick Swayze, so get ready to feather your hair, buddy. All right? Okay, here we go. All right. So you wait for women to come to you. Then they are like, hey, I'm interested in you, right? They say it in different ways, and you're like, no. You say immediately, yes or no. You do not play coy. You don't, and you're like, I'm not, and you say very clearly, I'm not interested in you, lady. Thank you for showing interest in me. I have absolutely no interest in spending another minute with you. You do it politely. You do it with no curse words. You could be a little clever, right? But you make it very clear, I do not want anything else to do with you, right? Then when the lady who is interested in you comes along that you are interested in, right? You acknowledge their interest and say something nice, and then you do not pursue them, right? And then when they show up to drive you home because you're all the the wheels on your car have been busted and a stop sign has been thrown through the window of your car, you take the ride, right? You take the ride home. When the woman gets you home, driven back to your house, and then sits in the Jeep with you and is like, and then doesn't go anywhere. It's like, well, here you are, dropped off, bye. But continues to say, then at that point you can talk nicely, right? And now you're ready for a kiss, okay? So this is the Masterstroke. This was brilliant, right? This was consent explained in 1989, literally 27 years before Me Too. And if everybody had listened, we wouldn't have had any problems, in my humble opinion. Please correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, okay? So he's like, okay, this woman has pursued me. She has offered me a ride, given me another signal that she wants to spend time with me. Once she gave me the ride, she did not kick me out, say bye, and then drive away. She stayed, right? He's listening. He's being content. He's watching the situation, right? Then what happens? Really fascinating. Here's what happens next, right? He goes to kiss her. He's like, okay, the moment's right? Like, we've been talking for a while. I'm getting signals that I can kiss this woman. All right, here goes. I'm going in for a kiss, right? But this, I couldn't believe this. It was brilliant, right? There's 12 inches between him and the lady he would like to kiss. You know what he does? He moves 6 inches. He moves 6 inches, right? Closes his eyes and purses his lips and makes sure that he does not close the gap. He does not fully invade her space. He only partially moves toward her, right? And then he very carefully stops, puts his face at a distance where if this kiss is going to happen, you need to move in, right? You need to come to me at this point. I've moved toward you. Now you have to move toward me, right? And so non-verbally, he's like, I want this kiss to happen, but it ain't going to happen from my actions. I have done my part. You have to do yours for this kiss to be completed. Now, here's the situation. Right now, James Dalton's got an Oasis situation, okay? If he says, hey, I'd like to kiss you now, he's got a Sahara situation, right? Just sand, right? Before, there was a lagoon, right? He maintains the lagoon, but also does not invade that person's space. Consent, explained in Roadhouse 1989. I will tell you right now, I did not turn on Roadhouse 1989 to perfectly understand human consent. But that's what happened, right? And that's why we need to go to rules complexity on Dungeons and Dragons. High rules complexity on Dungeons and Dragons on social interaction. We will find things we do not expect that are of massive value. All that is my humble opinion. I'm so eager to hear yours. Also, if I got any of that wrong about consent, if you're a consents me and any of that is not correct, I'm ready to learn. I recently did an excellent video on Session Zero and the movie The Wonder. And one of my, gentleman by the name of first name Colm came in and corrected half the things I said. I was right about the main point of it, but I was wrong about several points. I'm always ready to learn. If any of that was incorrect, please teach me in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium. And yes.